Put the C in the ouch and the ing in the couch, and we got couching with Koel. In a country like India, disability is almost invisible. It would be rare to see a blind or wheelchair-bound person amongst the teeming millions. And this is no exaggeration to say that a person with different needs is almost relegated to their home because of limited access. And able-bodied people are so awkward around them that they would rather not deal with them unless they have to. And if this person should dare to have an opinion or a preference that is different from the norm, then matters are only made worse. Therefore, a film like Margarita with a Straw, which has a female protagonist who's wheelchair-bound, bisexual, and dealing with teenage angst just like any other, is not only brave, but much needed. And here I am with the director Shonali and the actress Kalki in Adi, Action for Ability Development and Inclusion, talking in front of a live audience. So your film actually deals with a lot of issues, but the primary central focus, I think, would be teenage hormones and the explosion that happens to us during that time. Now, I remember my teenage years were completely confusing, complicated, and exhilarating all at the same time. Tell me something that was the overriding factor in your teenage years.
My love was very immature as a teenager. So any boy who gave me attention, I fell madly in love with. And then I wanted to marry him and have children, and I would write poetry and everything. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, yuck, how did I fall for this guy? You know, so it was like this complete thing of just being part of, you know, just wanting to be loved. And then when you got that attention, you were like, I don't know how to handle this. I'm not ready for this. So I think that was my teenage
Did you get attention easily?
Actually, I had braces and I was quite a geek. So no, that's I think why I was so thrilled when I got attention.
And then you're like, I got the attention. You're
now I don't want it. Now I'm going to go back to book reading, which is my favorite thing.
What about you?
Well, you know, when I was in high school, I was in Bombay, and my cousin Malini, who's a year younger than me, who has cerebral palsy, who's one of the inspirations of this film, she was way more romantic than me. And I remember feeling very conscious of the fact that Malini was constantly falling in love, like Kalki here, and convinced that everybody was in love with her. And it broke my heart, because often I would realize that attention and kindness were being misinterpreted for love. And I was very conscious not to date myself when I was in high school.
So do you think it was that was preventing her to feel intimate? Were people intimidated by her disability? Was that what was going on?
Yes, she didn't feel at all intimidated. She was ready to hit at any person and was convinced they were in love with her. It's not that she felt there's something wrong with my body and why won't you love me? She felt beautiful. I feel people who are able-bodied are definitely intimidated. And you know, there's such a pressure in the society that you, especially when you're a teenager, your look. So this is the pressure on all teenagers, right? Especially if you're a young woman, that, you know, the perfect look, like what's your look? Is somebody going to love you? Your whole self-esteem is tied with that. So, you know, imagine then if your body is not exactly perfect, then that's an even higher pressure for all sections, able-bodied, disabled, everyone.
So we know that you came up with the idea of this film inspired by your cousin who has cerebral palsy, but it goes somewhere else then. So tell me the different stages that you eventually arrived at this film. How did you develop it?
With Malini, again, the inspiration was, you know, a really bold and courageous statement she said to me, which is basically many years after our teenage years. I was 40, she was 39, and I said, what do you want for your 40th birthday? It's the best birthday ever. And she said, I just want to have sex. So firstly, that itself really deserves a drum roll. That itself threw me in that moment, because you see, then when I was conscious of that as a teenager, then as an adult I had ceased to think about that. And for her to put it that boldly and boldly, the issue of sex, the issue of physical desire, of intimacy, is something extremely important, and it's so taboo.
The conversation about sex in most Indian homes is very taboo, no matter how old you are. I mean, most of us have not had that conversation at home. How would you say, and would you say it's important to have it at home, and how would you say one should?
I think it is. I think it's very important to have it at home. I don't know. It's very difficult to say, because each family has such different backgrounds. You know, I come from quite a liberal family, and I remember my mother talking about contraception when I was 16 years old. You know, I don't know. I know other families who, you know, where the kids are 35 and their parents still don't know that they have sex. So it's a really difficult question. I don't know where to start.
How many people here have ever talked about sex at home? Wow, okay.
That's great. I mean, I think it's something so important, and I myself am a mother, and I think this topic usually tends to be only about safe sex, and it's really important to talk about pleasure. So with my own children, I talked about...
I don't want to talk about pleasure with my parents.
Yes. No, but
No.
Well, when a 12-year-old or 13-year-old, if you don't make them understand, things like masturbation are another taboo thing that Margarita touches on.
Now, in the idea that that sex is just for reproduction is, I think, the problem. I think a lot of people think that you have to have children. That's why you have to have sex.
And so if you're not having children, you cannot have sex. Therefore, homosexuality, therefore, is completely blasphemous,
exactly.
Right?
So I think that idea needs to somehow change. And it starts with education in schools. Parents, I think parents need that.
So your protagonist, in fact, is quite open with her own sexuality to herself, at least, right? And she does go through confusing times, as we all do. And there's a beautiful moment in the film, it's very funny, when she goes to buy a vibrator. And how uncomfortable making that is. Would you like to share that moment with us of how it was, how you came up with it and filming that?
Well, I mean, for me, in writing that, like, you see, the thing is that I went out to practice, like, to see that, okay, if you go as a woman and you go to try to buy it, like, you can't even go to buy a condom as a woman, right? You get such a weird look. I mean, condom, like, we want safe sex in this country. You can't go and ask for that. It's such a weird atmosphere in the shop. And
you can't even, let me tell you, you can't even go as a married woman and feel, you know, like, okay, fine, I'm completely, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, so that you go and they don't understand. Like, even if when you go to a shop where you feel you'll get something like that, it is very funny. So I did try it out before. I knew in my head it's going to be
You went
weird.
to a shop.
Yes.
What kind of shop did you go to? What is what we want to know. To go and ask for a sex toy. I just...
in those little gullies, you know, those little gullies in
It was in that market. I'm blanking on the name of the market.
Nagar.
Not Sarojini Nagar. Yeah, I went in Delhi. I wanted to see that what will happen, where they say that, you know, where they would have all kind of, and they say it like under the counter, we can get you anything, just as they have in the shop, where they were like lingerie, tong, you know, that's what he says in the shop. He implies he can have everything, and then when you say vibrator, he thinks she's talking about her phone vibration.
Tell us, a lot of people here want to know, we know that you went through 6 months of prep with a physiotherapist, with a speech therapist, you were on a wheelchair for hours in a day. How did you feel? What angered you about when you were in that wheelchair? What changed? What myths about disability broke for you? This is an overwhelming thing that all the kids here want, not kids, grown adults want to know here.
Yeah, many things. I think, you know, the most wonderful decision for me was to stay in the wheelchair throughout the shoot, because that's when I really felt it. A lot of people didn't recognize me. They thought I really had CP. So, you know, I had a lot of staring, a lot of pity glances, a lot of people being over extra, like, you know, caring, or then being very awkward and intimidated. And I found myself having to make a joke to break the ice, or me making the effort to make them feel like, okay, yeah, she's cool. Because in Delhi, in my lunch breaks or whatever, when we were, you know, I was in my chair. And I found myself having to be at the mercy of other people to get me food or to go somewhere, because there are no ramps, no, you know, access to many places. Whereas in New York, if I had a lunch break, I could zoom off on my chair, go to a restaurant, and there are disabilities everywhere. So people are used to it, and they just like, can I help you? I mean, they're practical. People are not, you know, sidestepping or, you know, weird about it. So I found that difference quite, you know, sort of. But I found it frustrating, for sure. I found it very frustrating at many times to be observed in that way, which is just like, you know, oh, just stop staring, you know, it's not polite.
And did it change the way, because I know, I read somewhere that actually you had, most of us don't, you had no real true encounter with anyone with...
I didn't. I had no exposure to disability at all.
So what did it change about your own personal worldview?
The first time I went out for a drink with Malini, which is Shonali's cousin, who I spent a lot of time with, you know, we went for dinner, and then she ordered a whiskey soda, and I was shocked, and I was shocked at my own shock. I was like, why am I shocked that an adult woman is having an alcoholic drink? Stop it, stupid Kalki, you know? So it was just this concept, this myth that, oh, she's disabled, she shouldn't be drinking. I mean, what is that? It's just our, just lack of awareness, that's it. And then, of course, I saw Malini is the kind of person who parties and dances and, you know, gets drunk and talks about sex. She loves Mills and Boon's books. And, you know, so great, you know. I mean, this is stuff that we are just not exposed to. And I think most people would not judge somebody if they were exposed to it. And if we can make, you know, if that can happen more, if that conversation can happen more openly, you would find that most people are okay with it.
So I'm going to open it out.
My question is to Kalki. What are the insights you got into the life of a disabled through this movie? I mean, what are preset notions that changed for you?
As I said, I think the frustration of others' lack of education and awareness about it. With Malini, especially the spirit of Malini, who is also, I think, very much in the film, Laila's spirit. She is somebody who looks at life with a sort of positive attitude. She is somebody who, I know it's a cliche, but you know, she is somebody who every time she gets up, she gets back up with a smile on her face and finds a way to carry on. And I think that determination, you know, comes from the kind of environment she's had to grow up with.
My question is to both of you. Since you people are from Bollywood, and Bollywood is just about being glamorous and being perfect when it comes to looks. But then disabled people, many times we face a lot of problems when it gets to, when we talk about looks. So what scope does Bollywood have for disabled people, and how is Bollywood contributing towards disabled people in terms of employment as an actor or as anything else?
Thank you.
You know, I love that you asked this. We need to change this mindset. It doesn't exist yet, and it's extremely hard for disabled actors to get a role, leave alone the fact that this, it's so superficial.
Did you ever think about casting an actually wheelchair-bound actor? Did that ever cross your mind?
Completely. Like I entirely wanted somebody who's blind, somebody who has CP to play the role, not to be politically correct, because I felt that if there is somebody who's a brilliant actor, who also have these disabilities, who happen to have these, nobody else will give them a chance. You have to be a brilliant actor. I'm not going to just, I'm not going to patronize you and say, oh, you're disabled, so I'm going to work my film around you. You have to, this film is written for a 19-year-old teenager.
So you actually auditioned people who were appropriate for the role, who had disability?
Yes, I absolutely did. And I said, you know, if I wish if I was doing a documentary with a couple of them, I was like, you're just wonderful on camera. But it requires huge skill. You see, when you're on a narrative film, suddenly you have to start crying or be angry, and there's much more cameras and lights and this, and you have to suddenly perform at the drop of a hat. You need a huge skill set. So her training of 6 months was not just actually that how are you getting the physicality of cerebral palsy, or with the other character Khanum, you know, how are you going to do your eyes. The training, actually, the work for this film in particular was how are you going to give the most honest, luminous performance as an actor in this film. And so yes, I did try very much.
And
so.
you didn't find anyone?
I did not find anyone.
Your phrase that I love, that when life gives you lemons, make a lemonade. Can you please like just expand on this?
So margarita with a straw, right? And in India, people are like, margarita, is it a girl's name? They don't even know it's a cocktail. And so, you know, as I said, I started writing this after Ishan's death. And when I finished that first draft, I started on his birthday a month later, just automatically this title came up. And I know in my head, I wanted a drink with a straw, because when I went out drinking with Malini when we were young, and I would say, you know, put the rum and coke in the children's plastic sippy cup and give me the nimbu soda, the waiters would always be shocked. And the fact that Nipun, you were stopped entering a pub, like, you know, reaffirms this point, that the fact, and you were shocked that Malini would drink, that the disabled can't drink. So I think maybe subconsciously I wanted a drink with a straw, because that is just an empowering thing. So therefore, why margarita? Because and my son Vivan, my younger son, he's 17 now, he said, Mama, please don't say this in public. It's very embarrassing. It's a cliche. But I said, you know, your mother's a cliche. So this thing, when life hands you lemons, you can make a lovely nimbu pani or a yummy margarita.
Yeah,
margarita also uses
strong alcoholic margarita is what we should be saying.
And raise a toast to life. And so for me and Vivan's cliche mother, I made a margarita with my lemons, and I raise a toast to life. And I feel that's the spirit Malini also has. And
Now, Kalki, you've been part of quite a few big hit films. Do you feel like a star now?
No, I don't. I still like.
I don't. Yesterday at Delhi airport when you were getting swarmed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe there are moments.
Do you want to feel like a star? Let's get into that.
I enjoy what I have right now, which is a mixture of both. Where my sabjiwala is totally unimpressed with me because I come in my pajamas and he's like, "How can you call yourself a star in Bollywood? Look at the way you're dressed, no makeup, nothing."
Yeah, but then, these days, that's the new definition of stardom, no? We can just go
like cool.
as we are. Yeah.
But then, you know, I get to the airport yesterday night and it's like surrounded by people and selfie, 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 selfie. So I haven't found that it's, I love it because I'm still struggling with a lot of things. Like I am a very candid person. I talk very openly and then I feel like, okay, no, I have to take things back. I have to reduce the amount of like, you know, honesty because people misunderstand or they take it out of context and then...
And it's so invasive after a point,
It's not only
right?
invasive for me, it affects my family, my loved ones, my friends, it affects other people. You know, I remember when I was leaving home, when I moved out and everybody was knocking on my dad's house and asking him, what's the gossip? Like what happened? Tell us. And I just felt so like sad that, you know, I'm not the only one, but everybody in my family is having to go through this breakup with me. So I just feel it's very, very...
and especially for someone who has lived her life openly and not like...
Yeah, and I do not want to become one of these people who's just like, no, talk to my manager. You know, I do want to be approachable.
But you feel like you're being forced into that position to a certain extent.
I feel like I have to hold back a little bit on what I say about stuff. And understandably, it's you know, you represent something and you have, I don't know, it's very complicated. I really don't know.
It's like a
I haven't figured it out.
You haven't figured it out, right? So maybe at any moment she's going to put her foot in her mouth and then say, why did I do that, right?
Yeah.
Why did I say that? So we're still stuck between actor, star, actor. Also about self-censorship, there's a whole other thing that's happening in India, which is censorship, like enforced censorship. Now, your film only got like an 8-second or a 16-second cut or something, which was really like unimportant that got cut. You got lucky with that. You had to fight it. But how ridiculous is the actual moment of when they're talking? I just want an inside view, now that you're safe, of what actually happens when you're talking to the people who are trying to censor you.
So there's arbitrary people who don't know anything about cinema or have not watched films or understand how you're portraying something, or even about the topics. So that first round, who watched Margarita with a Straw, who made 10 cuts, to give you an example, you know, the person in the wheelchair, she is humiliated publicly at one place, and she does this. This is her protest. And this was the biggest argument because they were like, "Ye to hum nahi dikha sakte." I said, "Kyun? It's a film." So they said, "No, this is very obscene gesture, and we cannot allow you to have the middle finger being shown in your film." You know, and that discussion that I had to have with these 5 people who, I'm trying to say, well, this is the way she can rebel, where she is registering her protest, who's in a wheelchair and she uses her finger, and it's an adult film. You've given it an A certificate. That is an example of how ridiculous it was that for half an hour I had to argue with these people, you know, on something like that.
And there was another scene you had to argue about, which was when Kalki's character is being aided to go to the toilet. Because they had no understanding of this, right?
Yes, exactly. So thank you for reminding me, Koel. In fact, that, my uncle, Malini's father, because Adapt is one of the producers, I in fact took him along because I said, you know, elderly man and you're the father, to argue it out, and he very emotionally argued. So this is a scene in which she's working with somebody, he's male, there's no handicap access toilet, and I'm sure many of you have faced this situation, there's no handle, there's nothing. How will she get off her wheelchair onto the pot? She is forced to ask her male colleague for help. And we show that scene because it's extremely important. And he has to
And it's shown very, very beautifully. There's nothing crass or anything about it.
He has to pull down her pants and her underwear. But that's important because that person is going through that experience. You know, it's for that. Now, they said that, so for them, this is like showing up. And I said, what is it? You're just seeing her thighs. Like, it's in your head that you're feeling this is an intimate act. Because it is. You think this adult woman wants an adult man to do this, and my uncle argued that, you know, if her mother is not there, if there's no woman carer there, sometimes I have to take my 48-year-old daughter to the bathroom and I have to take her pants down. Should she pee in her pants? And they said, no, you know, this is, for them, this is again something quote unquote obscene, which is shocking. The revising committee passed all these things, of course, and they're very different. Like you could see they understand film, they understand the issues. They came out loving the film.
Okay, we're going to open it again.
Hello, I'm like so very happy that you have taken such an important topic, that's disability. And again, another important topic in India now is homosexuality. So what do you think would be the Indian audience perception where you have taken these two very different, very valid topics? And what do you think would this make a change in the way they think as an audience and would make a disabled person think? Because I was empowered just watching the trailer. So what are your expectations from the audience?
Within the first 10 minutes, the wheelchair becomes invisible. So, of course, this is our intention. This is how we've done the script and the direction and the performance, but then you're not sure if you're going to be successful with that. And what I love is like that does happen, because I have made this character, this protagonist, just a normal teenager. She's really chalu, she's manipulative, because I think the pressure you also face is when you have a disabled protagonist, you make them very pure and pious and amazing and great, or they like achieve
Heroic,
amazing achievements.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I didn't make her Malini. Like Malini has got 2 MAs and has written a novel. Like I made her just an ordinary person.
So do you think that with this film, community, people in the community or people in the outside area will change their mind or not?
I think with any film, I feel a film can really just go a small part that help awareness and perception. Or many of you are activists here. I think we have to keep on that fight, you know, that about access and about other things, about laws, whether it's on gay issue, about laws, about on disability, so many things. And what a mainstream narrative film can do is help throw light.
My question is for Kalki. My name is Deepak Bhel and I am a BTech student from IIT Delhi. I'd like to ask, means after doing that role, at first means when you are reading the script and after doing that role, is there any significant change in your thinking about that topic? Means what you are thinking at present?
Huge change in the way I look at this. I've really grown as an actor as well through this film, because you know, as actors, we're often not expected to prepare for a role. We just jump into it. You know, we're given a script and we start in a couple of weeks. And if you look at a musician or a dancer, any other type of artist, they spend an hour every day doing riyaz, a singer. You know, they have to do that exercise. And that's what makes them great and makes them you know, sing from the heart or play from the heart without, you know, looking at their, you know, instrument or whatever. So in the same way, I think an actor needs that riyaz. And here I got the chance to do that for 6 months, so that I'm not thinking about the disability or you know, the physicality during the film, so I can focus on the human emotions. So as an actor as well as a human being, I've just grown in a huge way. Yeah, and also like I'm chilling a lot more with disability now. Like I'm like, yo, what's up? What's going on?
Okay, and on that note, we have to let it go. Everyone give a round of applause for Kalki and Shonali, and may you have all the luck in the world for Margarita with a straw.
Thank you so much, Koel. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Put the C in the ouch and the ing in the couch, and we got couching with Koel.